Welcome to the Linehaul Playbook. I'm your host, Emily Blair. Joining me in my virtual studio today, I am delighted to have the most fashionable lady in Linehaul, Christine at Wave Enterprises. Christine, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Emily. It's a pleasure, and I'm happy to be here. And boy, I'm honored by that title. So thank you.
It's well deserved. So I brought you in today because you are, in addition to the most fashionable lady in Linehaul, I'm going to say you're kind of the queen of culture. You
Oh,
have really been very influential in the Linehaul space in just talking about culture and bringing awareness to the importance of it. So can we kick it off today by having you tell us a little bit about why is culture important to even a small business?
for sure. Yeah, culture is all about like what your company values and who you are as a company and your purpose and everything. So if you can hire people that have that same mindset and same values as you do of your company, I think the longevity of the employee, is kind of solidified there. I know Sarah Panasco and I have talked about this, and she does a culture interview too. So her and I have kind of like talked about these things, and we just feel like it's very important. I think it just really sets the tone for who you're hiring and if people fit with you or not. And I think when people fit with you and they feel like they're part of a group, I think that they end up staying with you much longer.
Yeah, I think that's a very important tip. And I have to imagine they're not just staying there, it's not just longevity, it's also performance, right?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. We want people who, when you make a mistake, that you can own that mistake and bring it forth without feeling like, you're going to be penalized or chastised about something. So, our culture is like, I just had a new driver this morning text me something and it was like, no problem. Thanks for sharing that with me. We'll get it straightened out. And so I think that calmness and, that response then just, helps that person know that they can come with problems to their management without like fear of being punished or chastised. And it was funny because during our conference at Linehaul at the summit, when we were giving our team building and communication class, we had the experience to learn that sometimes people were talking in a very raised voice or very loud type aggressive manner. But then we found out, like, we were like, you don't have to talk to us like that. Like, that's not kind of how we roll. And later on the person thought about it and he called us back. He's like, man, I never realized that that's how I came across, and it's just how I was raised, and in my family unit that's how we talk together. And so like sometimes we don't think about people's experiences even from a young age of maybe how they were raised and how mistakes or if something got broken, how they were treated as a child that might have been brought into their adult life. And so, we want to reassure people that, you can come to us with things. And so if that's the tone we want to set, then we need to like train that and show that to our employees.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. And beyond the podcasts that you've done and the presentations that you've given at Linehaul News events, you have now taken culture building one step further. So tell us a little bit about the project you've been working on.
Yeah, so when I was getting prepared for the presentation for the summit, I just kind of got on this roll, and I, was a teacher for over 30 years. And so I have a background in education and curriculum development, and I was a school improvement chairperson for our building. So it just kind of started flowing to my mind of like, I go to these conferences, I take notes, a lot of notes, but when I get back home, I'm jazzed and I'm energized to like implement something new. But then I look at my chicken scratch and I'm like, what did I mean by that? Or how do I get started with that? Like, that's a great idea. I just don't know, how to get started. So I ended up just I was like, I want a hands-on something so that when people leave my course, that they have something that they can go back to help walk them through things. So it ended up becoming this. The building a strong company culture, and it's a guided workbook for leaders. So the purpose of this is that you can go through it step by step with your team. And I always think that your team should be representative of your company from all levels, management on down to daily employees. And the whole idea is that if we know our values, our purpose, our mission, and vision, and we have actionable goals, then this is what develops company culture. All those things put together. And we might have one piece or another piece, but putting it all together develops the entire culture for the company. So I ended up creating this 52-page document. Once I got it printed off and bound it up and everything, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. It will actually walk your team step by step through each of those sections. So it just kind of snowballed and took off, and I'm just really happy about how it came out. So I hope others will be able to gain some information from it.
That's amazing. And taking it back, this might be a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah.
How does a business owner know if they need something like that? Like when do you know that your culture is either simply not formed or it's broken or it's not the way you want it to be?
Right. That's a great question. I think a lot of that comes from like if you have a lot of turnover of your employees, you need to step back and ask, what am I doing wrong where I'm not able to keep employees? We can't always put it on them. They left for a reason, right? So we have to reflect on that and really truly look at what's going on. Is it the benefits package? Was it the way the person was treated? Was it, not enough pay? So I even think like an exit interview can be very helpful to find out why were they leaving, and is that something that is in my control that I can fix? I think also looking at your financials. Are you spending a lot on perhaps repairs, recruitment? What's going on? Am I doing things in a timely manner? Am I following what I have here as what my vision is for my company? But we can say it, we can think it, but until we write it down, there's something said for writing something down that will help you put it more into an action plan. So I think just kind of looking and talking with your management team, and checking in with your employees. We like to do success check-ins, where we'll call up our drivers and we'll ask, how are things going for you and whatnot. And so I think just checking in and having a pulse to know like what's going on in my company, like, as a whole. So hopefully I answered that part.
Yeah, I love that success check-ins. I think that's so great because how often as an employee do you get a call from the boss and go, uh-oh, what did I do wrong?
Right.
Right. So I think just kind of reframing that. So was that a process for you when you took over your business to reframe these type of check-ins as success check-ins
Oh,
instead
for
of like,
sure.
something negative?
Yeah, we definitely, Nick and I decided that we really wanted those two things separate from coaching calls. Like, coaching calls is about what needs to be coached, right? A success call is what's going well. We want to hear from you some feedback. How's your run going? Do you have all the tools that you need in your truck? How's life going, right? Is this working for you? And so we just want that to be focused on the driver, right? And how they are doing, it's can be kind of a check-in on the mental state of our employees, right? If they have other things going on in their world, we want them safe on the road. If they're distracted by something that's happening, if they can kind of talk about that a little bit, at their comfort level, then just maybe even voicing that will help relieve anything that might be going on. So I think those success check-ins are really helpful to know the state of mind of our employees because, again, it's tied to safety as well.
Definitely. In your experience, how long does it take for someone to truly change a company culture? When you first came into your business, how long did you feel like it took you to build a culture that you felt proud of?
I would say it took probably a good year and a half. We came in, kept things status quo for a while, and then just kind of got our footing, being, again, completely brand new from going to being a elementary middle school teacher to now running a logistics company. Like, so it was like we kept everything status quo and then changed things over time as we got to know more about the business and more about the people. I think a big part of it too was leaning heavily on Jeremy. He was our lead driver. He's now our manager in Kentucky. Of like having that driver point of view. I think making sure that you're understanding the point of view of all your people is really important also, their perspective of where they're coming from. So I think spending time with those people, either if it's on the ground or on the phone, you kind of get to know that and know them. And then it almost develops over time very slowly. But I think now that we're at this point where we can kind of be like, okay, we value honesty, we value like hard work and integrity, we value people who are vulnerable to tell us what's going on with them so that we can be helpful to them. So those are some of the things that we value. So I would think it took about a year and a half to like kind of really get a grasp of that.
And what type of starting point do you recommend? Like, what's the first step in your book?
First of all, I define what culture is and why it matters. So you have to really understand that. Why does that matter? People in general want to belong to a group that has similar mindset, right? So that's why it's important. It will help you attract the right people for your business. And then I want to talk about, well, what are the business's core values? So that's the first thing where, each individual who might be on this team to help build the culture part and go through the exercises is like, what are individuals' cultural or their values, their core values, and then bring that to the table and talk about those things. So I think as the owner, you can kind of think about, well, what are my values for my company? What do I value? And so I think that's probably the best place to start, because once you know your values, then that will trickle down to help you write your mission statement and then your vision. And then from your vision, then you can create your actionable goals.
That's amazing. I know this is a work in progress, but can you tell us a little bit about your plans for this book?
Yeah, so I'm working with Linehaul University with David Cooper and John Haldy and Kenneth. And so I want this piece of work to support the Linehaul community as well as support the Linehaul Summit. I'm very grateful for where I'm at in life right now. So this is kind of like me giving back. And this is kind of my way to help support the summit of providing educational materials. This can be used in any type of company as well. So, if other contractors have other contracts with different businesses, then, this can still be utilized to that. It's not specific to, the company we all work for. So that's the goal with it, is to be in Linehaul University.
I love it. Well, I will make sure I put a link to Linehaul University in the video description so anybody who's not familiar to it can get signed up. There's such great resources already, and I'm very excited to see your new manual end up in there, Christine.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm really happy to, and I would love feedback from people. Just like, was it helpful? Did it help you? I like something that I can, go step by step, that somebody's guiding me through this. So that's kind of how I set it up. I'll just turn to like a real quick page here. SMART goals, for example. So a SMART goal is that it's specific, it's measurable, achievable, and relevant, and it's time bound. So I give you kind of like a definition of that here, and then start like, what behavior or values, since you've already completed the values section, what values will support these goals? And so then, I give you the step-by-step of how to do it, why it matters. Each section explains why this section matters, and then a step-by-step guide of how to implement it and create it. So I tried to follow a certain format so that here's why it matters, here's what to do, okay, let's do it now. And then have references in the back for research-based team building activities that you can do with your team. I have a de-escalation guide for how you de-escalate heated situations, and then an effective communication toolkit also, so that you can brush up on, am I using all the tools that I can for effective communication, and what does that look like and sound like?
That is amazing. Well, this
Yeah.
manual looks incredible. I am really excited for some owners to dive in, get their teams involved, and start creating a company culture.
Yes, thank you.